Now we are reading chapter number 32, Practice the Action Habit, from the book Who Will Cry When You Die. Wisdom is knowing what to do next, still is knowing how to do it, and virtue is actually doing it. Observed by David Starr Jordan. Many of us know what we need to do in life in order to live a healthier, happier, and more fulfilling lives. The real problem is that we don't do what we know. I have heard many motivational speakers say knowledge is power. I disagree. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only potential power. It transforms itself into actual power the moment you decisively act on it. The mark of a strong character lies not in doing what is fun to do or what is easy to do. The sign of deep moral authority appears in the individual who consistently does what he ought to be doing rather than what he feels like doing. A person of true character spends his days doing which is right thing to do rather than watching television for 3 hours after an exhausting day at work. He has the courage to get off the couch to read to his kids. Instead of sleeping on these cold wintry mornings, this individual exercises his natural reserves of self discipline and gets out of bed for a run. And since action is a habit, the more positive actions you take, the more you feel like taking it. All too often, we spend our days waiting for the ideal path to appear in front of us. We forget that paths are made by walking, not waiting. Dreaming is great, but thinking big thoughts alone will not build a business, pay your bills, or make you into a person you know in how in your heart you can be. In the words of Thomas Carlyle, the end of a man is an action and not a thought. Though it were the noblest, the smartest of action is always better than the boldest of intentions. With this, we end this chapter. We are going to the next chapter, which is chapter number 33. See your children as gifts. On Father's Day, my son Colby brought a, brought home a handmade card from school. On the front of it was a small handprint, and inside the card, above a little photograph of my child, were these words: sometimes you get discouraged because I am so small and always leave my fingerprints on the furniture and walls. But every day I am growing. I'll be grown up someday, and all those tiny handprints will surely fade away. So here's the final handprint. So, just so you can recall exactly how my fingers looked when I was very small. Love, Colby. Children grow up so quickly. It seems like it's just yesterday that I stood in the delivery room waiting for the birth of my son, and then 2 years later for the birth of my daughter, Bianca. It is easy to promise yourself you will spend more time with your kids. When things slow down at work, or when I get that big promotion, or next year when I will get a little bit more time. But if you don't act on life, life has a habit of acting on you. The weeks slip into months, the months slip into years, and before you know it, that little child is now an adult with a family of her own. The greatest gift you can give to your children is the gift of your time. And one of the greatest gifts you will ever give yourself is that of enjoying your kids and seeing them for what they truly are, the small miracles of life. In the prophet, Khalil Gibran makes a point far more eloquently than I ever could when he writes, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing to itself." With this, we end this chapter. We are going to the next chapter, chapter number 34. Enjoy the path, not just the reward. In my work, I am often asked to teach people how to set and achieve goals. When I ask my audiences, why is it so important that you realize your goals? They often answer, because getting the things I want will make me happy. While there is an element of truth in this answer, getting the things we want often does bring a measure of joy in our lives. It somehow misses the mark. The real value of setting and achieving goals lies not in the reward you receive, but in the person you become as a result of reaching your goal. This simple distinction has helped me to enjoy the path of life while the others same time staying focused on the meeting my personal and professional objective. As one of my favorite philosophers, Ralph Emerson observed, the reward for a thing well done is to have done it. When you achieve a goal, whether that goal was to be a wiser leader or to become a better parent, you will have grown as a person in the process. Often, you will not be able to detect this growth, but the growth will have occurred. So rather than savoring only the rewards that have flowed from the achievement of that goal, celebrate the fact that the process of reaching your destination has improvised the person you are. You have a self built discipline, discovered new things about your abilities, and manifested more of your human potential. These are rewards in and of themselves. Chapter number 35. Remember that awareness precedes change. You will never be able to eliminate a weakness you don't even know about. The first step to eliminate a negative habit is to become aware of it. Once you develop an awareness about the behavior you are trying to change, you will be well on your way to replacing it with one of that is more helpful. As an author, I am frequently invited to appear on radio and television talk shows. When first started doing these programs, I thought I was a natural. I enjoyed meeting the host, sharing my insights and discussing my ideas in my book with callers. I was only It was only when I began to tape myself and study those tapes I realized something I had been unaware of. I spoke far too quickly. As a matter of fact, I sometimes spoke so fast that many of the key points I was trying to make got lost in the avalanche of words. A heap on the audience that had turned in. Becoming aware of my weakness was the first step to eliminating it. I then went on to my favorite bookstore and bought 5 books on effective communication. In addition, I ordered a series of audio cassettes that contained the speeches of some of the world's top speakers. I also joined the National Speakers Association. Finally, I picked up the phone and called a number of media personalities whom I felt I could learn from and invited them out for a quick lunch. Not one refused. Over a matter of weeks, I educated myself on how to improve my delivery on TV and radio so that I could share my message more effectively. I have found as well that becoming aware of weakness, that is, paying attention to it, also attract more solutions into one's life. For example, as soon as I realized that I needed to slow down to communicate in a better way, I started to notice seminars on the subjects advertised in the paper. I also noticed that the right book appeared in the shelves on the bookstores where I was browsing and found people who could coach me. So, over the coming weeks, reflect on the weakness and vow to transform them into strengths that will add richness and energy to the way of your life. We are moving on to the next chapter, chapter number 36. Read Tuesdays with Maury. While I was on the Denver stop of the American book tour for the monk who sold his Ferrari, I dropped into airport bookstore because before boarding the flight home. As I looked through the latest bestsellers, a small book with a simple cover caught my attention. Its title read Tuesdays with Maury. An old man, a young man, and life's greatest lesson. This was the book that at least a dozen of booksellers on the tour had suggested I buy since it was in many ways similar to the one I had just written, so I picked it up. After takeoff, I thought I would browse through the book for a few minutes before taking a much needed nap. A few minutes slipped into a few hours, and then by the time we landed, I had first finished the last page with tears in my eyes. The book is about a man who, after leaving university and building a career, rediscovers his favorite professor, Mori, in the final months of the older man's life. Every Tuesday, the former student then visits the dying teacher to learn another lessons about life from the man who had lived so richly and completely. A real life account. The lessons Maury offered during these moving Tuesday sessions include how to avoid a life of regret, the value of family, the importance of forgiveness, and the meaning of death. Where he makes a powerful remark: once you learn how to die, you learn how to live. This beautiful little book will remind you of the importance of counting your blessings daily and having the wisdom to honor life's simplest pleasures no matter how busy your life becomes. One of the legacies I will leave to my two children will be the library of books that have inspired and touched me. And Tuesdays with Mori will be one of those that will sit out in the front. Chapter number 37: Master Your Time. I have always found it ironic that so many people say they would do anything for the little bit more time every day, and yet they squander the time they already have. Time is a great leveler. We all have the same allotment of 24 hours in a day. What separates the people who creates great life from the also rants how these also from the also rants is how they use these hours. Most of us live as if we have an infinite amount of time to do all these things we know we must do to live a full rewarding life, and so we procrastinate and put the achievements of our dreams on hold, and we tend to do those daily emergencies that fill up our days. This is a certain recipe of of life of regret, as novelist Paul once wrote. Because we don't know what when we will die, we get to think of life as an inexhaustible well. Yet everything happens only for certain numbers of time, and very small number really. How many more times will you remember a certain afternoon of your childhood? Some afternoon that's so deeply a part of your being that you can't even conceive your life without it. Perhaps 4 or 5 times more, perhaps not even that. How many more times you will watch your full moon rise? Perhaps 20, and yet it always seems limitless. Commit yourself to managing your time effectively. Develop a keen sense of awareness about how important your time really is. Don't let these people waste the most precious of your commodities and invest it only on those activities that truly count. Chapter number 38: Keep your cool. Anyone can become angry. That's easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy, thought Aristotle. With all the stress and pressure in our lives, it is not easy to lose our cool at the slightest irritation. While we are rushing home from work at the end of another exhausting day, we scream at the shower driver in front of us who apparently has all the time of the world. While we shop at the grocery store, we get annoyed with a stock clerk who sends us to the wrong aisle when we are in search of the ingredients for tonight's lasagna. And while we are eating our dinner, we yell at the telemarketer who has the nerve to interrupt us in an attempt to sell us their latest wares. The problem with losing our temper on a daily basis is that it becomes a habit. And like most habits, a time arrives when it becomes second nature. Personal relationships start unraveling, business partnerships begin to fall apart, and your credibility decreases as you become to known as a loose cannon. Effective people are considered and in many ways predictable. Though times call for cool people, tough times call for cool people, and they are always cool and calm when the pressure is on. Keeping your cool in a moment of crisis can save your years of pain and anguish. Hurtful words unleashed in a single minute of anger have led to many a broken friendship. Words like arrows, once released, they are impossible to retrieve, so choose yours with care. An excellent way to control your temper is simply to count 200 before you respond to someone who has irritated you. Another strategy to use is what I call the three gate test. The ancient sages would only speak if the words they were about to utter passed three gates. At the first gate, they asked themselves, are these words truthful? If so, the words could then pass to the third gate, whether they would ask, are these words kind? If so, then would they have their lips to be sent out onto the world? Treat people as if they ought to be, and help them because they are capable of being, said the German poet Wolfgang von Goethe. These are the wise words to live by. With this, we are done with chapter number 38.